Okay, welcome everyone. As we are sponsored in our tour through Shavuos by A.B. Spry for Shalem of Teber Reise Bas Hinda and for great Zivugim for their daughter and grandchildren. We're also sponsored by Shali Zayton, who is actually in Phoenix now, for his children, Eli, Orit, and Ora, and for the Fur Shalem of Shimon Sarah Miriam, and Moshe Ben Esther Fradel, and for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel, Ben Bela, Shendel, Rivka. We are holding towards the bottom, in the middle of the Mishnah, actually the bottom line of the Mishnah. We said the examples where normally the default is that you swear and you don't pay. But the exceptions are listed in our Mishnah where you swear and collect. So here's a case where Marshall is chayiv to swear to me. But Marshall is a well-known bank robber. Or Marshall is a gambler. So instead of him swearing and not paying, since he's not trusted, then I swear and collect. So it says, "Shekinegdoi choshid ala shvua ketzad, acha shvua se'edis," whether Marshall has proven to be a liar in a case where he swore about not knowing testimony, v'acha shvua sapikad, or he swore about not having a deposit. Even if he swore a vain oath saying that a block of gold was really a block of stone. Or let's say he was a gambler. Or gave a loan with interest. Or he bet on the pigeons. Or he did commerce with Paris of Shvius, which is a no-no because it says to eat it and not to do commerce with. So therefore, since we cannot trust him, instead I swear nishba v'naitel and collect. Let's say both Marshall and I were both suspect. Then chazra shvur l'mekayim, the shvur returns to Marshall, and since he can't swear, he has to pay. Divrei Rabbi Yaisi, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yaisi. Rameir says if we're both not trusted, then yachloika we divide the money. And the next case where we said that we make the person, we allow the person to swear and collect. That's v'achen v'ni al pinkasai, a storekeeper about his ledger. Ketzad, not a simple case where the storekeeper says, it says in my ledger you owe me $200. It's not so simple. Ella, here's the case. Amalai, I tell Marshall, Tain libani sasayim chitin. I tell Marshall, give to my son 2 sa of wheat. Obtain lepoali selamois. Give to my worker a seller worth of change. Hu aimer nasati. Marshall says, I gave it. The son or the worker says we never got it. So there the din is who nishba v'naitel. He swears and he collects from me. He swears that he gave it to the son or he gave it to the workers. He swears that he gave it. V'heim nishban, and they swear that they didn't get it. V'noitlan. So here we have a situation where I have to pay both. I have to pay Marshall, and I have to pay the son or the worker. Amr Ben Anas, so Ben Anas says, so then what we're doing is we're instituting where both have to swear, and one of them is swearing falsely. So we're legislating a false oath. We can't do that. right? Because if Marshall swears that he gave the money, and they swear that they didn't get it, we're legislating that one of them should swear falsely. As the Gemara says, Ketzad elu ve'elu ba'an lidei shvur shav. One of them is going to be making a false oath. Elahu naitel shaloi b'shvua. Rather, he takes without a shvua. That means the storekeeper gets reimbursed by me without a shvua. The hay naitlin shaloi b'shvua, and they get their money from me, whether it's the workers or the son, without a shvua. In other words, in this case, there's no shvua, because we're not going to legislate making two shvuas, one of them which is definitely false. Now here is another situation with a storekeeper. I tell my favorite grocer, Marshall, Tainli bedinner payers. Give me a dinner worth of apples. V'nasanlai. And he gives it to me. Amalai, and Marshall says, Tainli a dinner. Give me the dinner. Why? It's okay, I gave you the dinner worth of red delicious apples. Give me the dinner. Amalai nesativlach. I say, Marshall, what are you talking about? I gave it to you, v'nasatam unpuli, and you put it in the cash register. You put it in your money purse. Yeshava ba'alabayah shenasan le'asa dinner. I swear that I gave him the dinner, and I'm believed. Amalei tein li esa peris. If I say to Marshall, give me the fruit, right? I say to Marshall, give me the fruit. Amalei, so Marshall says, nisatim lach, I gave it to you, v'alachtim l'sech beischen, you already took it home. Yeshav achenveni, there Marshall swears that he gave it to me and he's believed. Reb Yehuda says, in the first case, where Marshall gave me the fruit, and I claim that I gave him the money, and he says I didn't give him the money. Rabbi Yudaimer kol shaperis biyadai yadai al yaina. Whoever has the fruit has the upper hand, and therefore what? Right. Rabbi Yehuda says that since I have the fruit, I don't have to swear that I gave him the dinner. That's what Rashi says. Areisha Poli, the Ketani Yeshava Balabaya Shinosan Le'esa dinner, that it says that I have to swear that I gave Marshall the dinner. I don't have to swear. She'ein derech chen v'niyameicher shaloi ba'akafa. It's not the derech of a guy like Marshall who doesn't sell with credit. Litein es haperis atchiyak kabbalas hadinner. He won't give the fruit until he gets the money, and therefore, if I have the fruit, then the assumption is I already gave the money to Marshall, and therefore I don't even have to swear. Now, next case. Amar l'shulchani, I tell Marshall wears many hats. In this case, Marshall is a money changer. He's also a money launderer, but we won't get into that. But in this case, Marshall is a money changer. So I tell Marshall, again, Amala Shulchani, Tainli bedinner mutz. Marshall, here's a dinner. give me change. V'nasanai. And Marshall gives me the change. After Marshall gives me the change, so then Marshall says, Amalei tain li es adinner. Give me the coin. I gave you change. Give me the, I asked him to change me 100. So now he says, okay, Rabbi Weiss, give me the 100. Amalei. So I said, what are you talking about? Nesata blach, I gave it to you, v'nesata ben poli, and you put it in your cash register. So Yeshava Balabayis. So I have to swear that I gave him the $100. I have to swear that I gave him the dinner. Nasalei dinner. Here I give him the $100. Amalei tainli esamais. I say to Marshall, give me the change. Amalei. So Marshall says, Nesatim lach. I already gave you the change. Vishlachtach kischa, and you put it in your purse. So now who swears over here? Yeshava Shulchani, the money changer, swears that he gave me the change of 100, and he doesn't have to give it. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. Ein derech Shulchani litain iser. A Shulchani doesn't give the change ad sheyitol dinner, until he gets the $100. So again, this is going back on the first case. The first case is where I asked Marshall to give me change, and he gives it to me, and Marshall asks for the $100. So I say, I gave it to you and put it in your purse, so he said, I have to swear. Says the Gemara, no, I don't have to swear. Rabbi Yehuda says, I don't have to swear, because it's not the way of a money changer to give the change until he takes the 100. Now, these are certain cases where you have to swear. This is a full selection after all this Masechta is Shavuos. Kishem sha'amru hapagemes ksuvasa. A woman that admits she was paid part of her ksuva, that her husband paid part of her ksuva. So once she admits that the husband paid part of it, lo sifra el b'shvur, she can't get the rest unless she swears that she didn't get anything but that part. The eid echad meida she prua. If there's one witness that says the ksuva was paid, now one witness is not enough because the eid echad is no good by mammon. But it's enough to make her swear. Like tifra el b'shvur, she can't collect unless she makes a shvur. Minachasim mishabadim or minachasim yisayim. If she wants to collect her ksuva for mortgage properties, that's buyers of the husband. Or if, let's say, her husband died and she's collecting from the orphans, lo sifra el b'shvur, she could only collect if she swears. She swears that she didn't get paid anything from her husband. And if she's collecting the ksuba not in the husband's presence, she could only collect with an oath. Also orphans. If orphans are making a claim that they're collecting a debt of the father, they could only collect with a shvua that they don't know anything about their father having been already paid. Shvur shaloi pakdanu abba, a shvur that our father didn't instruct us, v'loi amalanu abba, and our father didn't tell us that the shvur, that this debt was already paid, and shaloi matzina bein shtaroisav shalaba, and we didn't find in any of the documents of our father sheshtar zeh perua that this was already paid. Rabbi Yaakov ben Raika says even if they were born after the death of the father, he never even knew his father. He still has to swear that our father didn't leave instructions that the debt was already paid. If there are witnesses that the father said at the time of his death, this document was never paid, then hu noitel shalai b'shvua. Then the Yisayim collect without a shvua. Ve'elul nishban shalai b'tana. The following swear, even if there's no definitive claim, they could just ask for a shvua for insurance. The following could ask for a shvua that the other party should be above suspicion. Hashutfin, partners. So they could ask, I want you to swear that you didn't have sticky fingers. Varisin, sharecroppers could be asked to swear that they didn't take more than their share. Vapetropin, managers of an estate. V'isha neisas v'neisenes b'seichabayis, or a woman that was the manager of her husband's affairs. He could ask her to swear that she didn't pocket things. Or ben abayis, or if, let's say, one of the orphans, the oldest son, managed the estate, he could be asked to swear that he didn't take anything on the side for himself. Amalai, and even if all these people say, Ma'ata to'aneni, are you making any specific claim? Could say no. Ritzaini shetishavali, I just want to be assured that you didn't have any sticky fingers. Chayiv. However, cholku ashutfin varisin, if the partners dissolved their partnership, or the sharecropping arrangement was terminated, and then at a later date you want to ask for a shvua, ein yochel lashbia. You can't ask for a shvua at a later date. But niskalgaloi shvua b'makam acher. But if this former partner or former sharecropper has to make a shvua about another matter, then megalgalan of his kol. You could then roll upon him and say, I also want you to swear that when you were my partner, you didn't take anything. If somebody was due an oath because of a claim on a loan, and Shemitah comes and relinquishes the loan, so it relinquishes any oaths that are attached to the loan as well. Okay, now we start the Gemara on this very long Mishnah. And I think it's already time to welcome in Dr. Guy, A.B. Spry, Saba, Marshall Castle, Baruch Ian, Yaakov Warman, Yitzi Fuchs, Menachem Yamansky, Shimon Klein, Chaim Lerner, Nachman Chapler, Reb Kaniel, Dr. Udell, Ben Zion Cohn, Barry Cement, Stephen Holtzman, Eddie Chazan, Moshe Lehman, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Abe Arbach, Rabbi Kranz, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller, David Helfgott. I see that Barry is by a simcha, and he's watching even from a simcha. Unbelievable. Very nice, Barry. Good Kiddush Hashem.
He cleans up nicely, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
I walked out of simcha. I'm in Lakewood.
You're in Lakewood. Wow.
Yeah. I would have gladly come over to the Rub Share, but we just finished.
Okay. It would have been nice to see you.
Would have been nice, of course. It's always great to see me.
At least somebody likes to see you. The Gemara now says, Kol nishbam shebetayra nishbam v'loy misham. The default position is you swear and you don't pay. How do we know this? Minalan da'amakrav v'lokach ba'olav. The owner accepts the shvua v'lo yishalem. Misha olav l'shalem loy, the one that's supposed to pay him. Misha olav l'shalem loy shvua. He's the one that swears and then he doesn't pay. However, ve'elu nishba v'noitlen. So now we're going to get to the employee. We said that instead of the employer swearing that he already paid and he doesn't have to pay again, the employee swears that he didn't get paid yet and he collects. So why do we shift the shvua to the employee? So ask the Gemara, Ma'ishna Sachir, the Tekino late Rabbanan the Mishtava V'Shakol. Why is it an exception that the employee swears and collects? Great laws are taught here. Now, halachas implies that it's a deraisa. This isn't deraisa. Halachas, hani hilchas, and no, this is not deraisa. Great enactments we're learning over here. Says Gemara, gedolos, big enactments. Does that mean there's small enactments? Fixed takonas are taught over here. They uprooted the shvua from the employer, and put it on the employee, mishum kedei chayev, because it's his parnasa. So the Gemara says, mishum kedei chayev the sacher, because it's the employee's parnasa, kansina leila balabayis. We penalize the balabayis. Says the Gemara, well, balabayis gufein nichalei the mishtava sacher. The balabayis is pleased that the employee should have the opportunity to swear and collect in order that there will be a market to find workers. Says Gemara, well, we should say the other way around. The employee is pleased that the balabayas should be able to swear in order that the balabayas should hire people. Says Gemara, well, balabayas bal korchei ager. The balabayas needs to hire people to do his work. So the Gemara says, Sachar nami al korchei mitker. The employee also is going to take a job because he needs the work. Ella, now we're getting down to the reason. 2 lines from the bottom of Mem Hamad Aleph. Ella balabayas torid b'foyelefu. The balabayas is busy with his many workers, and therefore, since he's more preoccupied, we believe the employee that's only involved in himself, that he remembers that he wasn't paid. So says Gemara, then let's grant it to him without a shvua. Says Gemara, no, we have him swear to appease the balabais. Balabais will say, okay, if he's swearing already, then he remembers it better. So the Gemara says, so why don't we obviate the need for all of this, and insist that the worker should be paid in front of witnesses. Says milsa. It's too difficult to get witnesses for every payment. So pay him in the beginning. If you pay him before he works, it's no problem. Says both the boss and the worker want to be paid later. The boss wants to pay him later so he has more time to get a hold of the money. And the worker wants to be paid later. Rabbeinu Chananel says, if you get your pay before you work, it's harder to work. At least if you work and then you get paid for an honest day's work, but once you're paid already and now you have to work after you're paid, it's harder.
You blow it sooner also.
Huh?
You blow the money.
Yeah. Well, no, it says the other reason is because he's afraid that he'll lose it in the course of the day's work. Says the Gemara, Ihachi afilu katatznami. We should believe the worker, even if it's a question of how much was the amount that he was supposed to be paid. If the worker says, you promised me 200. I only promised you 100. So then we don't believe the worker. We say, you want to get extra, you have to bring proof. Says the Gemara, the amount that he made up, the employer doesn't forget. Even if it passed the time of collection, we should still believe the employee that he wasn't paid. Allah Matanya, we learned if it's past the time, it's past the 12 hours after he worked, the worker then cannot swear and be believed. Why? Because chazaka ain't balabayis over b'bal tolan. Because the chazaka, the balabayis, won't be over bal solan, keeping the wages more than 12 hours afterwards. Says Gemara, v'amrit balabayis torah b'foyelav. We said that he's busy with his other workers. That's before the 12 hours are up. But when it reaches the 12 hours, he puts it to his mind, umitke. Says Gemara, but you say the Baal Bayis won't be over Baal Solon. Over Mishum Baal Tigzel. Will the employee be over stealing and claiming that he wasn't paid if he was really paid? Says the Gemara, yeah, but the Baal Bayis has two chazakas. Gabe Baal Bayis, he could trey chazake. Chada, the ain't Baal Bayis over Baal Solon. He's not over to not pay him within 12 hours. The chada, the ain't sachir mashis chorei. It's not normal that the worker should delay getting paid so long and ask after 12 hours. So therefore, after the 12 hours, we believe the employer and not the employee. Now.
But we believe the employer because the employee wouldn't let it go so long?
Correct. That's one of the reasons. Two reasons. Now, now the Gemara adds a new wrinkle that we didn't talk about till now. And that is, why don't we believe the boss? I'm the boss. Marshall's the worker. Why don't we believe the boss? Since I have amigo, I could say that I never even hired Marshall. So amigo, I could say I never even hired him. I should be believed to say that I paid him. So therefore, says the Gemara adds this wrinkle. I hired him in front of Menachem and Yitzchak. But if I hired him without witnesses, so since I could say, what do you think, you're crazy? I would hire Marshall? I never hired to you, so therefore, then I have a migu that I'm believed to say that I paid him. That's correct. Now, from the fact that it says V'chein Amar Rabbi Yochanan and not V'chein Amar Rabbi Yochanan v'Reish Lakish, Michlal de Poligalei Reish Lakish. So here we had this once before. No, it's no raya that Reish Lakish argues. Ikidamri Mishtav V'Shasi Le V'Shasik Le. He was drinking at the time, and therefore his quiet is not necessarily an admission, because maybe he just didn't protest because he was drinking. While Ikadamre Misha V'Shoyle V'Shasik, sometimes Reish Lakish was quiet until Rabbi Yochanan finished his whole dissertation, and he wasn't around afterwards, so he didn't know whether Reish Lakish argues on it or not. Imar Nami, Amar Menashe Bar Zvid, Amar Rav, Lo Yishanu El Esach V'Eidim. It's only if I hired Marshall with witnesses. But if I hired him without witnesses, since I could have said, I never hired you, I could say, I hired you,
And when people see him working,
what?
he's the construction site, everybody sees he's working. You're going to say, I didn't hire you?
Yeah, I'm going to say that he, Marshall was a good guy and he came to help.
It's in my nature, Barry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, go back to the hot dogs, okay?
Now.
Okay. Chili.
Now. Omer Rami Bar Chama, Kama Mal Yehoshmaitza. How wonderful is this teaching? Amalei Rava, my Mal Yusa. What's so wonderful about it? Im ken Shavuos Shomer dechayev Rachmana heichi mishkachasla. The din of a shomer, if Marshall is watching my stuff, where do you have a case where he has to swear? If let's say Marshall was watching my chess set, and it's missing. So if he's a shomer chinam, he has to swear that he wasn't negligent. Well, but according to you, he could say, he never had my chess set. And since he could say that, he should be believed that he wasn't negligent. It never happened. He never gave me a check. Says the Gemara, you're right. It's talking about where I gave him the chess set in front of witnesses. Says the Gemara, but still, he could have said, I returned it to you, Rabbi Weiss. Says the Gemara, you're right. You'll have to learn the afkid le'bishtara. I gave it to him with a star. And therefore, since I have a star, you think I trust Marshall with my Staunton chess set without a star? I gave him the chess set, and he gave me a document that I gave it to him as a deposit. And I still have the document. So he can't deny that I gave it to him, and he can't say that he returned it to me. Michlal, the Travayus rule, this implies that they both hold, if I deposited him with witnesses, he doesn't have to return it to me with witnesses. That's why I would need a shtar. But if I give it to him a shtar and I still have the shtar, either he takes back the shtar or he has to return it to me with witnesses. Now, for the last Gemara, the Gemara prefaces its remarks with a pasuk.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Rabbi, I had trouble getting on. I have your stuff my father tonight. Could I give you his name?
Sure.
Not Shmuel ben Hesvi Alevi.
Not the Shmuel ben Hesvi Alevi. Neshama should have a big aliyah. You should be a Meltziyah. You should for Mo and Gans Klal Yisrael.
Amen. Yes, Rabbi.
It's great to have you, Mo.
Thank you.
Kari Rami Bar Chama Alei de Rav Sheshes. Rami Bar Chama said the following pasuk about Rav Sheshes. Vayasem David es Dvarim ha'ela b'libay. That Dvarim took these words to heart. We'll see how Rav Sheshes took the teachings to heart and was analyzing them. Da'ashkechei Rav Sheshes Rabbi Bar Shmuel. Rav Sheshes found Rabbi Bar Shmuel. Amalei, he said to him, Tani mar midei b'sacher. Did the master learn anything about an employee? Amalei in. Tanina, we learned, sacher bizmanai nishba v'naita. That a sacher, if it's in the time, within the 12 hours that he's supposed to be paid, he swears and he collects. Ketzat, bizman she'amar sechartani, you hired me, v'lo nosata li schari, and you didn't pay me my wages. V'alo aimer, and the boss says, Scharticha, I hired you, v'nosati lach scharcha. So in that case, the employee swears and collects. But if he says you made up, you made up to pay me two. You only made up to pay me one. Now, Hamid the Sefer Baraya, since the Sefer is talking about where he has to bring a raya, have a reisha below raya. That implies that in the reisha there was no raya at all. In other words, there was no raya even that he was hired by witnesses. And yet we see that we don't believe the boss with a migu that he could have said, I didn't hire you. Says the Gemara, no, you're making a wrong inference. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, as we turn to Daf Mem Vav, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Reisha v'Sefer b'Raya. Both the Reisha and the Sefer have a Raya. In the Reisha, there's at least proof that I hired the guy, so that I don't have a migu that I could say I never hired him. The Sefer, there's a raya, the Reisha of the Sefer Baraya, raya de l'shalem ketani. We're talking about that in the Sefer, he has to bring proof to get paid. In other words, get paid 100. Raya de Shavua, a raya to necessitate the oath, that kind of raya like ketani, we weren't talking about. Einochanami, there has to be a raya that the person was hired to do the job. If there's no raya to that, then einochanami, the employee, there would be no shvua, because the boss would be believed, migu, that he could have said that he didn't hire him, he could have said that he already paid him. Okay, Rabbi said we're going to stop here. Now we're going to learn a chak.